Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are the best wide receiver tandem in the league, and I don't want to hear any more guff about it. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. I appreciate you all so very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you get started with $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today on the show, we got Pete Bercich joining the show again later to talk a little bit about what he saw on the film, about the running game and the Vikings run defense in particular. We got way in the weeds on like run fits and stuff. Very cool conversation there. I want to have a little heart to heart on the end, but at the end. But first, there's two main points I want to make. The first one is just that Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson are the best wide receiver tandem in the league. Nobody's doing what these guys are doing. And I'm super sick of starting to hear people like dismiss Justin Jefferson for like not having, for one, he's second in the league in receiving yards. Okay. So even if you do want to just go on like the super basic box stats, like, I don't know, eat that. But also, and a lot of people have started to like notice and make this point. JT O'Sullivan made this point in a video that he made at the QB School, which is a YouTube channel. I highly recommend. I love that. If you haven't heard of it, if you haven't gone and watched it, you can learn a lot on that one. He just did a whole one on Sam Darnold. But you know, you're starting to hear a little bit about it in broadcasts, but like the Justin Jefferson gravity thing, right? But it is so important. It's interesting. After the game, Kevin Seifert was talking to Addison in the locker room and asked him, "Hey, you know, so what did you guys do to go off this bad?" And Addison kind of said, "Well, we got a lot of single high, so they just sent one of us deep on one side and one deep on the other." And genuinely, like 3 or 4 of the really big explosive plays were just that. Jefferson was deep on one side, Addison was deep on the other, and Jesse Bates, it was usually had to choose one and couldn't like get to both. And you just throw against him. And it was that easy. And that only works if you have two guys that can just consistently win a go route and like stack it up. We know enough about Justin Jefferson. I don't need to explain why he's good to you. Addison, on the other hand, I think like his game is a little bit more underappreciated. Like everybody, I think, is pretty happy with him right now. Although sometimes I do see people saying like insane stuff that like they should like trade him for draft picks or something. But usually that's from a different angle. But so the thing about Addison is he's starting to pick up the Jefferson tricks. Like he's starting to pick up little bits of what Jefferson does in the way that he stems things, the way that he stacks up receivers, the way that he controls his speed. I think speed control for Jordan Addison is one of the more underrated parts of his game. If only he could keep that off the field too. But he, like, it's not always full go. And there's actually, so there's a play, it's a DPI, turns into a pass interference, where Addison, I'm pretty sure, if I understand that play concept correctly, whenever the Vikings run it, I'm pretty sure that's a clear out. It's an alert, right? Hey, if they bust the coverage, throw it. But it's usually a route you don't see the ball on. And Addison is on the very backside of the concept a lot, and he always runs that full speed. Those are, somebody referred to them lovingly as "I love football" routes, because you ain't getting targeted when you're fifth in the progression. And I think some receivers will sort of go half speed on those. And sometimes it's smart too, like it's energy conservation or whatever. But there are some guys that just literally physically can't not go full on a route. And Addison's one of those guys. So very much an "I love football" route kind of guy. And these clear outs are an "I love football" route, but you got to get up and go, because you have to threaten vertical speed. You have to make somebody respond to it. You're trying to deepen things. There's usually some schematic reason, right? You're trying to take a safety to go with you or whatever it is. So you have to go. They have to take it seriously. And if they don't take your clear out seriously, that can bring a defender into the equation that the scheme has not accounted for, and then you get really intercepty. Okay, so Addison goes completely full speed. But if he goes completely full speed, he outruns Sam Darnold's range pretty quick. And now he's too deep to throw it, right? Like he can get to 60 yards kind of fast, and that might be too much. So on this DPI play, it set up the Vikings like a 1st and goal. On this DPI play, or like 1st and 10 for like the 12 or something, Addison hits the guns. He's clearing. The safety hesitates a little bit. There is some kind of miscommunication. Something is weird about their coverage. I can't quite diagnose this Atlanta coverage in particular. It's either 3 or 1, or maybe it's like half and half. It's weird. But something goes weird where the high safety doesn't actually help with this clear out. He sees a deep over with Justin Jefferson. Here's your gravity, right? He sees a deep over coming with Justin Jefferson. He nails down on that. He's just a little bit too keyed in on 18, not realizing that there is something that is supposed to be his responsibility more. So now suddenly a corner that is in trail position, so that means running behind Jordan Addison, expecting somebody to cover him up top, doesn't have that up top coverage, and now is just streaking wide open. Sam Darnold identifies this and heaves it, right? Addison doesn't expect the ball here. He never expects the ball here. So when he looks over his shoulder and sees the ball, he's got to slow up for it. And because he's gonna outrun that thing if he keeps going full speed. So he has to slow up for it. But the way he positions his body, he has stacked that receiver up. So what it means to stack a receiver up, you release outside or inside of them, you release somewhere, you get past them on the release, and then you restack, you get back on the path your route is supposed to be on. You can leave that path for a little bit to get out, and Addison was great at this in college too. You can leave that path a little bit to get out, but you got to get back and restack that route. So you got him restacked, and now you're just running where you're supposed to be, and the guy who's defending you is behind you. Great, you're in good position, right? But it's almost like in NASCAR, where if you're gonna slow up a little bit, you kind of have to position yourself in front so that guy can't get back level with you. And he does it beautifully. And when it's time to actually go for catching the ball, the defender on him, and I forget who it is, maybe it was D. Alford? I don't know. But the corner that's on him basically is either giving up a touchdown or tackling you. And he goes with tackling you. DPI, flag, 1st down Vikings. Every route has, I think, a thought process like that. And I'm working on a video right now for my Patreon page, patreon.com/LukeBrownNFL. That goes over that. The other thing on my Patreon page is about Jalen Redmond, who I want to just take back what I said about him in the Monday episode. I thought that he had some like tough moments. And I think there are some subtleties in run defense that caused issues, but they're really minor issues. He did just have a good game. It wasn't like, oh, he had his ups and downs and the splashes were so visible, but there's this subtle thing no, that subtle thing is actually like pretty minor. The good plays were actually just really good. Good job, Jalen Redmond. Like, great game. He might be a starter, y'all. Like, he started. And Jerry Tillery is, I don't know, relegated to a backup now. He's like a 2 now. We'll see if that continues or if that was like a specific thing. Maybe they had some matchup in the Falcons game that they liked for that or something like that. But that was a sudden increase in playtime, and it paid off. That's usually pretty good news for the guy that got the increase in playtime. Go Jalen Redmond. So next up, we are going to talk to Pete Bercich and go deeper into some of the other film stuff that he noticed. And at the end, there's a little heart-to-heart I want to have with you as well. But first, we'll get to Pete Bercich. That'll be in a minute. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Built Rewards. You can earn valuable Built points on your rent and on everyday spending at no extra cost. So if you are a renter, it's a total game changer. You can earn points on every rent payment, just like you do with groceries or travel. So paying your rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. So if you're one of those people that likes to build up credit card points and then like use it to like make a flight cheaper or something, I do that all the time. You can go get in on this with your rent payment. Why not make those really annoying payments do something back for you? So start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure you use our link so they know we sent you. And don't wait. Start earning rewards today. All right, everybody. We are back once again with Pete Bercich. Hey, Pete. Thanks for coming on.
How you doing? Hey, I won a bet, so you got to pay up, and so you have to have me on again.
Right. Well, let's get that squared away right away.
Tank the ratings. Tanking ratings.
Yeah, I can take the ratings. People loved listening to you last time, by the way. So thank you so much. Everybody was like over the moon. Oh my
Good.
God, Pete Bercich
I
on the
love
show. It
being
was a
on.
great
Love
conversation.
being on.
So for those that missed it, on Friday, Pete made a bold prediction that Jordan Addison would get 2 touchdowns. He got 3 touchdowns. So we cleared that. So as a punishment, Pete said, "Oh, you got to have me back on the show." And it's love to, but for an actual punishment, I said, "Okay, at least let me like donate to something of your choice." So Pete, what's your
All right.
choice?
My choice would be the Vikings Children's Fund. It's something that my God, I think it was around when I was playing, and it's something that we always, something we as players have worked with. I've done it as a coach, and then as my current job as the analyst, we do a lot with the Vikings Children's Fund. So anything that goes there is it's a fantastic charity. So I would appreciate it if that's the direction that it went, and hopefully I can get another one right this week and
Yeah, wow.
empty your pockets even more.
Let's do it. I'm all in for
If we're
that.
gonna do it, if we're gonna do it again.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's save it to the end of the show.
All right, sounds good.
So let's start by talking a little bit about how that Falcons game went down. Obviously, it was kind of this like slugfest for 3 quarters, and then the Falcons and then the Vikings just sort of avalanched it, and the game got out of hand. But there were some interesting things going on up front that you were, especially like both teams like just blitzing a lot.
Yeah, it was very interesting in that regard, because it's a copycat league, right? And then you look at what Arizona did, and they blitzed a ton. A little bit different, right? They would delay with the linebackers. They wouldn't walk up to the line of scrimmage. They were just waiting for the snap, and then they would and so that ensured what that ensures is that they're not going to turn the line that way. It's going to be making the running back step up, and I think that's one area where CJ Ham came in late and did a very, very good job on the touchdown to Justin Jefferson. When they had a free safety, they had a safety coming up that was unblocked. It was CJ Ham that kind of piled everything up and allowed Darnold to run around it. So getting that figured out is probably the biggest thing. I mean, Aaron Jones does a good job. I remember back. Yeah, I remember when he was
Cam
back
Akers
in Green
took an
Bay.
L.
Yep.
Aaron
When he
Jones
was
took an
back
L,
in
and
Green
those were
Bay,
both
that was
sacks. Like,
yeah, exactly. That was kind of his weakness is in pass pro. So it's not like this is something new. But so if you're gonna block them up and throw it deep, then you need to have running backs that can really step up and do that. So that's kind of ongoing, and we've seen our defense do that. We talked about it last week with Jacksonville. If you find a running back duo that's not great protection, well then you blitz your linebackers. But Atlanta has guys like Ellis. I think it's Caden Ellis and
Caden Ellis,
some really really good blitzers, and you're going to see kind of the same thing, I think, this weekend with TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. I mean, these guys they're very good blitzers, so they'll probably try to replicate what was going on. Anyway, but it turned into who's going to blitz the most and who's going to get it blocked up. Atlanta had a lot of success with it. They also ran the ball really well. I mean, they almost put up 500 yards against our defense.
I would love to talk about the run game there. And kind of everybody wants to, okay, what went wrong with the Vikings' vaunted run defense? Maybe the best in the league kind of gets shredded by Bijan Robinson and all that. And so what happened?
Well, first off, Bijan Robinson is a pretty impressive running back. Second of all, their offensive line, they're so good at the outside zone. So good. They're best in the league at running that outside zone with the cutbacks. Second of all, their offensive line is pretty solid, right? You didn't have any glaring weaknesses with that front. So, they're a good group in that, and they committed themselves to the run because the game was close for most of it. I think really it broke open after the fumble on the kickoff return.
And then they couldn't run.
Right. And so they couldn't run the ball anymore, and then you had to throw it, and it was just a matter of time. So I don't know if the Bears can come in or who else can come in and necessarily replicate what they did. The key though is to win the line of scrimmage and to get penetration. And when our defensive linemen, despite having to run left and right, could get penetration, it worked out well. what we weren't getting sometimes is guys were getting run off one way or the other, and we were losing a line of scrimmage. And once you start losing that line of scrimmage, then the cutback lanes get there, right?
Right.
And being on the field a lot, you tackle a little bit better. But they had a good game plan for us, and they executed it pretty well. So is it concerning? We've seen it before, but I think as the guys up front, Harrison Phillips gets healthier, Bullard can play better. Jalen Redmond, he'll get more
Yeah.
playing time.
Just made a video on him.
Yeah, Jerry Tillery.
Go check it out.
Yeah, Jerry Tillery. Those guys up front really need to step it up, and then the guys that are filling in for Pace, whether it's Gabe Murphy, he was on the outside as well too on a number of plays, and so you got some new bodies out there. So my point is, this is not a systemic problem. Don't panic. Panic yet.
A little banged up, a little bruised. Some guys not 100%. I think the Dallas Turner thing is interesting too.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're on the backside of those outside zones, the backside edge's job is the quarterback. So he is looking at the quarterback, and what he has to get faster at is identifying, okay, QB doesn't have the ball. Now I squeeze this cutback lane.
Right. And
that's what you're not getting from him quite yet. And that's experience.
And if you remember, if you saw the hit that he had on Cousins, which was an unbelievable hit, it was
where he just the split flow blocker just whips.
Exactly. Well, the tackle blocks down. I believe the tight end blocked out, and then he hesitated for a second. If you watch it, he'll read it and then go, "Oh, quarterback still has the ball," and then he's like shot out of a cannon. The athleticism
then it's just
unbelievable. But if he reads that a fraction of a second quicker, that could be a sack force fumble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like against the Bears, I think it was last year it was last year. I can't remember who it was. If it was
Tyson Bagent, maybe? Was it Fields still?
Oh God, it might no. It was I can't remember if it was Fields or I think it was Fields that was still in there, or maybe it was Bagent. I don't know, but it was like Ivan Pace. It was one of them that they got there. Yeah. They just missed the sack, right? It's a fraction of a second, and that's unfortunately, that's the game. It comes down to fractions of a second. So,
but you keep stacking those, and eventually they flutter up and they get picked. Like they got 2 of those against San Francisco. Like you make those happen. Like chaos happens, and good things will come to you.
Tips and overthrows, baby. That's what it's all about. And
gotta have those.
I thought Cousins played well. We knew this on Cousins. You pressure him, you hit him, you do that. You can force him into some mistakes, and that's exactly what. And being +3. You're going to win by 21 points, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's I think the key
thing.
How
that goes down.
Just us not turning the ball over too.
Well, and so on the other side of the ball, speaking of veteran quarterbacks having a day, I think we have to kind of decide how seriously to take the Sam Darnold for the future and all that stuff. We'll get into that in a second. Back with Pete in just a minute, but first, I gotta tell you about the sponsor of today's episode, which is IceShaker. IceShaker is these stainless steel kitchen grade workout bottles. It can also work as a thermos or a cocktail shaker or whatever you would use, like one of these, temperature keeping bottles for. Ice will stay ice in here for like 30 hours. They have a patented twist-in agitator that breaks up workout powders, which is really the unique thing about this. It was developed by the Gronkowski brothers, who wanted it for like protein shakes and stuff, but it can be used for a whole bunch of things. You can keep a cocktail in here if you want to keep a cocktail cold forever, whatever, or a smoothie or like whatever, right? And it's all customizable. They just got licensed with all of the NFL team logos. So you can get a Vikings one, or if for whatever reason you're listening to this and you're not a Vikings fan, you can get it in your team, which sure. Or you can even get your own custom logo, like your company's logo or something like that. So, whatever you want for this, you can order your team branded bottles today at IceShaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. IceShakers, show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. IceShakers. All right, continuing on here, we still got Pete Bercich on the horn. Thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your time, Pete. I appreciate it quite a bit. So this is a career day statistically for Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Couple of the big long touchdowns are sort of broken plays, busted things. People keep asking me or trying to argue, like, I keep hearing fluky. I keep hearing people say, oh, well, that underthrown one, and it kind of got lucky that it was, that it fell in Addison's lap, and, oh, I bet you can't do it again kind of stuff. How do you feel about that when somebody throws 5 touchdowns in a day?
I think anyone that throws 5 touchdowns in a day is, I wouldn't, you call it luck, but it's not blind luck, right? We've seen Darnold do a much better job under duress, and he has been under duress. I don't know. I think he was sacked, I don't know how many times, 4 against Atlanta, 5 times, I believe, against Arizona. I mean, he's averaging 3 to 4 a game. But earlier in the season, if you remember, against the Colts, he got hit. What did he do? He fumbled, right? So he's doing a better job, I think, of managing that, meaning no discretion's a better part of valor. PA always, makes fun of me for saying that, but it is. And sometimes you got to know just, hey, this is a sack, cover up the ball. That's going to be it. Because remember, we used to see him bail out, like try to reverse out and end up losing 10 more yards on top of the 10 that we already lost. So I think he's doing a better job of just knowing, especially later in the game, to be able to make plays with his legs.
Mm-hmm.
So all that has to happen. And then again, for Atlanta, if you're going to blitz like you are, send more than they can block, do those kinds of things, you're putting your DBs at an unbelievable disadvantage. And that's
right.
part of
everything
the bit.
Was one-on-one.
Because if you're playing corner or safety, Luke, and you dial up a blitz and it's an all-out blitz or whatever, in your mind you're going, okay, this ball is coming out quickly. And if it doesn't, I'm screwed because I can't cover my guy completely
so everywhere
you play aggressive on the field. Right. So
it's like jump setting for an O-line when you're
exactly.
Doing
and
it's
then
like I only have to hold up for a second. So
I only have to slow this guy down. Right. If it's a 3-step drop, all I got to do is make this guy hiccup, just as long as he doesn't stop and throw his arms up. And so you have that mentality, and then if the play gets extended, it becomes a huge problem. Huge problem, because you're at such a disadvantage. And there were mental errors in no question about it. There were mental errors in the coverage for Atlanta. So, they made a decision to say, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to stay aggressive. And they just didn't practice it enough. They just didn't iron out all the kinks on their end, and they made some mistakes. So, when they make mistakes like that, you've got to make them pay, and we did.
Absolutely. 12 blitz dropbacks. One of them was a sack. Of the other 11, 8 caught for 155 and 3 touchdowns.
That's how you
killing
get
the
defense.
blitz.
I was saying that's how you get defenses to stop blitzing.
Yep.
Right.
Just
that is exactly how you do it, because the next defense coordinator, I don't even know who it is for the Bears now, for God's sake. He throws that film
it's the same
up.
Guy. I don't think they've changed it.
Well, it wasn't Eberflus was a defense. He was a defensive minded guy. Anyway, they throw that film on and they go, okay, we got the blitz reel, and he's just constantly murdering defenses when you blitz them. Maybe we sit back and play a little coverage, or maybe that's and I guarantee you that's why. I said after the game, that's why Kevin O'Connell, I'm sure, loved that game, because when defensive coordinators want to get aggressive and blitz me, I'm going to burn you. It's just an ego thing, or that's part
especially
of
after the Arizona game and the blitz problems that they had there, to then kind of come back and just kill someone in the blitz.
Well, it makes sense why Atlanta did it, right? Because
they saw that game and went, "Oh, let's send everybody."
Exactly right. The more we blitz, the better we can be, and we got to put them on their heels. And then Kevin O'Connell and the team answered that. So what the Bears do, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. They know us obviously very well. So
and they're a cornered animal right now, kind of on their heels. Everybody's fired. Like, everybody's playing for a job, so there's going to be like a desperation, I think. Well,
nothing to lose.
Yeah. Beware the man with nothing to lose. Let's move into a little bit about the upcoming game against the Bears, and it feels like every time you look over to Chicago, something new is going wrong. Whether it's, some the Hail Mary, like on-field controversies. Oh my God, what were they thinking with not taking a timeout? Or somebody's getting fired, or there's some sort of organizational unrest or whatever. So when that stuff's going down, because when you played, there was a little bit of drama sometimes with Denny Green or whatever. how much does that really affect a locker room? Or do they even like care about the headlines and they're just like, I don't know, I got up at 6 a.m. today. Like,
Yeah. Well, it does. And that's the interesting thing with, as you can see, Odie, I got Odie down here. He's
oh yeah,
my buddy's hanging
audio
out with me.
listeners missing out on
Um,
some good snoot.
yeah. Usually when a coach gets fired, you get a bump the next week because the players realize, okay, they got rid of the coach. We're next, right? They got rid of the easiest. The easiest solution is to fire your coach, right? Replacing a roster is a little bit different. And then they realize, well, the GM might go too, and the GM's the one that likes me, and that's the reason why I'm here. So they're not just playing for their job in Chicago; they're playing for their job all throughout the league. So you want to
Right.
put good film out there.
Yeah.
But they kind of hit a buzzsaw with San Francisco. I mean, this Bears offense, it continues to start slowly. They try to run option plays, get the quarterback moving a little bit, get the ball out quickly to DJ and the wide receivers to kind of get things going. But yeah, they hit a buzzsaw with this San Francisco team because the game plan is so well. They couldn't handle crossing routes. I mean, they were dropping people in coverage, a lot of mistakes early.
Mm.
So they didn't have a chance. I mean, you look at what happened by halftime. I mean, it was a complete beatdown going into halftime.
Right. I mean, it was like 319 to 4 total yards or something.
But they didn't roll over, right? The Bears, I'm not saying they came back. We've seen us do, like we did against the Colts a couple of years ago. It's not like they came back, but they didn't just roll over and play dead. They continued to hang in there. And nobody likes to get embarrassed. And this is going to be a Monday Night Football. So like Denny Green would say, everybody's going to be watching, your family, your your teachers, all those, everybody. So you don't want to do that.
So with all that in mind, that's sort of this desperation kind of vibe happening. Of all the things that the 49ers did to them last week, how much of it did the Vikings, I feel like, crossing routes? Like the Vikings do that all the time. Is that is this something the Vikings can then just replicate and go be the next buzzsaw?
Absolutely. I think, yeah. I mean, and that's what you're talking about is exactly, I think, what Kevin O'Connell loves to do. And it's going to tie into my bold prediction, for this
all
week.
Right. Well, let's hear it. Let's get right into it.
I think TJ Hawkinson's going to have a career day. He could. All right.
A career day. Okay.
Yeah. A career day. And I have to figure out quantitatively what that means. I mean, is that 100 yards? Is that 10 receptions? Is it 8? So
let's say sets a personal record, and we can say yards. That can be touchdowns. Let's. I got the game logs.
Okay.
Up. I can pull this together on the fly.
Let's just call it that. Let's just say TJ Hawkinson has a career day.
We can also always revisit it afterwards if it's borderline, and we can kind of talk about how we feel.
Right.
But let's see here. 179 yards would be the best. He did that in Detroit.
Wow. Okay.
Touchdowns. He's only ever had a 2 touchdown day.
Let's
so 3 touchdowns would be a career day.
Ooh, that's a really bold prediction though. I could see him getting 2.
It is. Or 14 catches. I can give you, how about this? I'll give you any of the 3. 14 receptions, a personal high in yards like 180 or whatever that was, or 3 touchdowns. I mean, that you would call that a career day, right?
Yeah, let's do 14 receptions.
Well, thank you so much, Pete. Give your dog a big old hug for me.
Yeah, knucklehead. He's Shy. Hey, come here. Gotta love him. You gotta love him.
All right, Pete, thanks so much.
We'll see you, Luke. Bye.
Thanks again to Pete Bercich for giving us so much of his time. It's super great to talk to him. I love the conversations we've had the last couple weeks on here. And before we go, we got to talk. So I haven't said much about it because there's not a lot of information out there about it. And, but it's something that you might want to know about. Randy Moss has stepped down from ESPN for a while due to some sort of health issue he was very non-specific about. There's a lot of speculation about what it can be. I'm not going to do any of that, but on Tuesday night, Larry Fitzgerald Sr., who is a member of Minnesota media, and I believe is credentialed by the Vikings, decided to disrespect the privacy of Randy Moss. Here's the deal. If Randy Moss is ill and in trouble, all the thoughts out in the world to him. But as media, whether it's somebody like him credentialed in the building trying to report stuff that happens to the building, or somebody like me that's just more like a content creator that doesn't have the in, right? Wherever we're coming from, we have that voice. And it's so important to be responsible with that voice. And it's why I don't really have respect for a lot of the people in NFL media that seem to care more about being first than being right. And especially when that comes to disrespecting somebody's privacy, I've got a big problem with that. Whether what Larry Fitzgerald Sr. said is correct or not, and I'm not even going to say it because it's not what this is about. Thaddeus Moss, Randy's son, immediately dismissed him. So whatever's going on there, it's none of our goddamn business. That's what I'm here to say, okay? Sometimes stuff ain't your business. Sometimes it's time to just shut up and wait to find out what happened. And I get it, especially on this show where the whole show is looking for answers to questions, right? But sometimes we have to wait to find out. And I hope that we don't want to pressure and pry on this too much. I hope we can all be just okay with waiting to find out what's going on with Randy Moss. So I want to reaffirm the promise that I make to you, which is that I want you to get something out of this every time you listen. I want you to learn something new every day, right? That's why I changed the motto to that. I want you to feel every day that you listened, whether it's a laugh, whether it's a new thing you learned, whether it's a new fact you can use in debates at the bar with your friends, whatever it is, I want you to be able to get to go home with something. And I will never respect members of media that don't care about giving you that. Because I think that's why we're here. Otherwise, we're just blustering for AdSense. We're just trying to manipulate a robot to make money. And I think there's more, virtuous ways to make a living than that. So I wanted to have that little heart-to-heart and get that off my chest. But I mostly want to ask you all, if you aren't already, as curious as you may be about what's going on with Randy Moss, to sit back and wait and respect that it's none of our business. Not until Randy Moss decides to come out and say what's up. All right, we good? We got a crossover with Locked On Bears tomorrow. I'll see you for that. And as always, Skull.